Hey guys, welcome to the epilogue of Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader for my run. It's been a great journey and a lot of fun to play through the game, so let's just dive into seeing how everything played out for everyone after we beat the Catan Shard at Epitaph. The Catan Shard was transmuted into a new form and their name was Nomos. Possessing the power of an ancient being and nurtured by the rogue trader, the young star god watched over the Coronis expanse, their new domain, with curiosity. Gathering its bleeding worlds together again, the rogue trader dared to build something more noble and civilized in the expanse, a haven for those drifting and unprotected in the strict hierarchy of the Imperium. It would be an unbound frontier where freedom and compassion were not wholly extinct. The shackled monster under Von Valancia's control ensured the survival of the fledgling utopia. The Star God destroyed all who threatened its peaceful civilians and instilled fear in those of little faith. The Expanse tasted the sweet fruit of freedom and tolerance with reverent fear. The Imperium could not forgive such insolent deviation from the order prescribed by Holy Terror. The Von Valancia's dynasty was accused of the seditious formation of their own empire. An invasion fleet gathered in the Calixus sector, and the lifespan of the young utopia was as short as its creators. Protecting the young kingdom of freedom, Nomos created dimensional barriers that cut the Coronis expanse off from the Imperium more soundly than the Great Rift. The humanity of the expanse was left in isolation, relying only on themselves. They either had to build something new and different from the Imperium or fall to the horrors lurking in the darkness. The ideals that Stooge von Valancius was committed to were alien to the Imperium but close to the hearts of many in the expanse. Anyone who could not resolve a dispute or who was denied justice rushed to the palace of the rogue trader in search of mercy. Having lost its leader and lacking a worthy successor, the Quarter dynasty began to weaken. The grim legacy of the abominable Aspas revealed itself, and the Protectorate fell into chaos. Grasping claimants tore their defenseless domain apart. Resisting the temptations that besieged him, Caligos Winterscale returned to his domain and began to piece together the shattered remains of his Protectorate. Until his dying day, his actions and thoughts were dedicated to saving abandoned worlds and protecting survivors. Alas, he was not able to achieve much in the time he was allotted. He breathed his last breath on the same throne that he refused to leave for decades, adamantly refusing augmentics that would restore mobility and power to his legs. The cult of St. Drusus continued its indefatigable struggle to spread the faith around the expanse and expose the vile transgressions of the authorities. The stronger and wealthier a planet was, the less its rulers wanted to see the black-clad preachers. Riots and assassinations pushed the cult to the place where it felt most confident, the frontier. Hieronymus Doloroso remained the most revered priest in the cult of St. Drusus. He turned no one away, hearing confessions from pirates, bilge rats, deserters, and beggars alike. It might have been one of those undeserving wretches who infected him with a rare form of leprosy that robbed him of his sight, yet his heart could always see the corruption in the souls of his repenting children. In the following years, the Cognizance fleet slowly and deliberately left the explored systems of the Expanse for the furthest remote regions. Observation stations and claimed worlds were abandoned, and even Euphrates II became derelict. Statistical divination warned the fleet's conclave of the grim events awaiting the Expanse, and they decided to deliver their fellows from the coming storm. Yet they did not share the truth with the lay people. The schism of discontinuing the cycle engulfed the entire Cognizance fleet, and soon the civil war was over. Disregarding the commandments of their forefathers, the explorators started down a dangerous path of new comprehension, creation and revision of procedures and algorithms. The fleet was united once more, and in its unity it was ready to stare down any horror standing in the way of the catechism of maintenance and operation.
Magos Dominion Opticon 22, one of the first to hail the return of the Messiah, took the helm of the Mother Squadron of the Cognizance Fleet, unquestioningly embracing the teaching of discontinuing the cycle. He personally saw to the crushing of any renegades who did not accept the Messiah's word as truth, and earn himself the identifier Chrome Scourge. The crisis in the Expanse dealt a serious blow to the business interests of the Fellowship of the Void. Having no powerful allies, they retreated into the darkness of frontier systems. The hard life they faced there forged them into a new tribe. Furious, wild, and willing to do anything for survival, they sought to return and retake what had once been theirs. For many years, old Rizar presided over the captains of the Fellowship. At the end of her life, she once again took the helm of a ship and led an unprecedented attack on the Mother Squadron of the Cognizance Fleet, during which the attackers managed to seize a dozen transport ships loaded with the Omnissiah's sacred gifts. Violence throughout the Expanse put many on their guard, and as a result the Casbalica mission's business declined. Soon rumours surfaced among the coal traders about a so-called commission that had made it through the Maw and into the Expanse. Its professed purpose was to audit assets and take measures to restructure operations. These words carried with them an ominous threat. Vladimir Tukara, as Liege of Footfall, survived 14 assassination attempts and thwarted no less than 2,000 schemers before a shot finally took his life. The esteemed Liege's funeral was held in great secrecy, with only his closest entourage being permitted to view his corpse, which spawned some peculiar rumours. The Imperial Navy was wary of the rise of the Von Valancius. They saw themselves as dogs guarding the flock of the Emperor's subjects, and there was a new master of the pack. Therefore the dynasty was watched with utmost diligence, and the admirals feared that one day they would have to go to war against the rogue trader. Chartist Captain Osterius Thorfast founded the Thorfast and Companions Merchant Company, excelling in trade and acquiring a substantial escort fleet. After 3 decades he travelled to the Maw to return to the Imperium in hopes of obtaining the fabled warrant of trade. It is not known how this venture ended. When the rogue trader's apostasy became apparent, the Imperial Navy fulfilled its duty and fought the Von Valancius dynasty. The Battle of Dargonus ended in resounding defeat, and the surviving ships fled to distant systems. Disheartened but not broken, the captains vowed to rebuild their force and plan raids into the apostate territory. Dargonus continued to grow for 2 decades until a terrifying rebellion put a decisive end to its prosperity. A genetic anathema known as the Gene Stealer cult infiltrated the hives of Dargonus and tried to take over the world. Millions were exterminated in purges, and street battles destroyed many hives, setting Dargonus back centuries and depriving it of its chance to become the capital of the Expanse. Kiava Gamma washed off the stain of its former defilement, but not the dark memory of it. The sacred halls were never silent, and production rates became the supreme law. The glory of the Imperium was forged in the blood and sweat of its toilers, and the millstones of the manufactorums ground the workers down by the thousands. Even in death, the souls of its servants dared not step away from their machines. Kiava Gamma grew, and new manufactorums were founded until disturbing reports started to trickle in many years later. It seemed that someone had secretly taken control of the colony, shrouding it in a tangle of conspiracy. Neither inquiries nor threats to tech priests or executions helped. Someone in the shadows was weaving their web and making secret plans. Janus was conquered, the Xeno spirits were exorcised, and the wilderness was subdued. The fields grew until they covered the entire planet, and billions of tons of provisions were harvested there. Janus had become the breadbasket of the Expanse, and to threaten it would be to condemn millions to starvation. The nobility of the Expanse appreciated the idyllic conditions of the pearl-like paradise world. White castles rose above the agri-complexes and their mud, and the shining knights of Janus gifted the sector with many a hero who covered themselves in glory. 5 years after the Epitaph campaign, Boss 6 died out as a result of an unknown scourge that came from beneath the ground. Convicts and overseers were poisoned, mangled, or just disappeared. However, the slave barracks were quickly repopulated, for there was no shortage of outcasts and criminals in the Expanse. After recovering from Quarter's regime, Footfall reclaimed its status as the trading hub of the Expanse. Having learned a bitter lesson, Vladimir Takara created the Footfall Partisans Militia, a well-equipped mercenary army that answered only to him. A modicum of order returned to the station. The changes that the von Valancius dynasty brought to Footfall endured on the station long after. Poorhouses opened by the order of the road trader saved many hungry and homeless from death. Unfortunately, this disrupted the station's delicate ecosystem, no longer freezing to death in empty compartments or tormented by epidemics. Those who lived in poverty on Footfall began to choke the station, leading to a sharp rise in crime. Organ traders, the illegal or medic specialists, and savage gangs of Anvers proliferated. The Reichad system turned into a purulent wound of corruption, poisoning the Expanse. The surreal energies of the yawning warp legion held its planets together even in the absence of the gravitational pull of the star, defying the very laws of existence. Immense depravity took root on Reichad Minoris, and it poured out into the other systems with vile glee. The people of Reichad Minoris, saved by the rogue trader, eventually found a new home. The colony of New Reichad was founded at the edge of the von Valancius domain. Memories of the adversity they suffered and of their fallen home filled the hearts of both commoners and nobles with hatred for the ruinous powers. That loathing fueled the building of a kingdom of intolerance and strict order on New Reichad. Proclaiming prayers to the Emperor, they kept vigilant watch for any signs of corruption in their home and surrounding colonies, and regularly embarked on purging campaigns on nearby colonies that resembled military invasions. Kinda cool if brutal. With the fall of their unholy patron, the Edge of Daybreak, the cult of the Final Dawn perished as well. Every cell of the cult was hunted down and eliminated. Rumors that some worshippers of the ruinous powers had managed to get away, hiding the writings of their warp-banished lord under their robes, were baseless. Left without a mission or a leader, the word-bearers retreated to the depths of the Immaterium. Their last act of vengeance was a bloody assault on Footfall. The populace of several asteroids was exterminated or enslaved, and the statue of God Emperor was badly damaged. Rumors of the rotting remains of an Eldari craft world spread around the Expanse. Explorators, privateers, Kazbalika agents, and anyone hungry for easy money all rushed to the frontier systems to vie for a piece of the prize. Some were swallowed by the warp, while others perished in skirmishes with their rivals. The most skilled and fortunate returned empty-handed after decades of searching. The colossal ship, as big as an imperial world, simply vanished as if it had never existed, but the legend of the forbidden treasure lived on and continued to bring daring souls to ruin. Eldari from the fallen craft world Krudarak, who once travelled through the darkness of the Expanse in a desperate attempt to gather the remains of their kind, were becoming a rarer sight. Even the most skillful Kazbalika agents and audacious bounty hunters with knowledge of Xenos settlements on the edges of the Expanse could no longer find their trail. Squads of Eldari rangers suddenly appeared on different worlds and disappeared abruptly without shedding a drop of blood. Their purpose remained an enigma. The spirit monolith, purified by the Harlequin troop on the Chrome World, was hidden from the insatiable eyes of Mon-Ki by raging warp storms. Ships started going missing more frequently in the systems close to the planet. Even the most courageous captains gave the region a wide berth, and it was named the Damned Reefs. Somewhere on the underside of reality lay Komorra, woven from manifold of other dimensions and illuminated as always with the light of stolen suns, its streets ever filled with screams and agony. Any misfortune experienced by the Dark City became another scar on its appalling face, lost among thousands of other vile blemishes. As long as pain pulsed in its blood-soaked spires, the insatiable and unshakable Chimera continued its flight through the webway, along with its unchanging ruler, the leader of the Cabal of the Black Heart, and the most dangerous of all Drukhari, Asdrubal Vect. The fall of the Cabal of the Reaving Tempest united Chimera for a brief and bloody moment. The elites of the Dark City set their squabbles aside and found a new game in tearing apart the domain of Archon Iremeris. The fate of the Reaving Tempest reminded the other Cabals that nothing lasts forever in the Dark City save the city itself. Leaving the Necron systems behind, the Star God vengefully obliterated every tomb world of the ancient Xenos race. The old hatred of the Catan betrayed by their deathless servants whispered inside him. The voice of Voxmaster Vigdis Suri, Otter of the Ptoleman dynasty, has long resounded in the expanse, bringing hope and trumpeting the arrival of the merciful rogue trader. Known for her wisdom and acute understanding of ship systems, over her long life she taught many generations of future Voxmasters from the Ptoleman dynasty. Her body was built into the bridge itself, and in times of need her voice flowed through the Vox, dispelling delusions and despair. After years of dedicated service, Master Helmsman Ravor was granted, despite his objections, the privilege of rest. The wise servants of the Omnisci implanted an augment into his brain that restored his ability to sleep. Soon afterwards, something unprecedented happened aboard the ship. The Master Helmsman overslept and missed the start of his watch, but his temper did become much more agreeable from then on. Many years later, High Factotum Janrus Danrock sought permission to retire. He said that age had softened his heart and that a more worthy, young and assertive successor should take over his position. There was no shortage of candidates. Under all that fact, Danrock had a sentimental heart. He spared nothing for the orphans of those who had died serving the rogue trader. The children were given an excellent education and were eager to serve the von Valancius dynasty. Urban Drivestem cared more about preserving the influence of his line than the well-being of the Protectorate. His blind ambition lost him his governor's seat and the respect of his family. Within a few generations, one of the largest houses of Dargonis turned into an obscure family of petty aristocrats. Toriana Gaprak missed the moment when her family, which had previously functioned like a well-oiled machine, started to fall apart, racked by infighting. Among her distant relatives, many blamed Toriana for the Kiava Gamma disaster. Soon the Gaprak family splintered into warring factions and spent centuries locked in a violent struggle, only occasionally punctuated by futile attempts to reunite the house. Macarius Sauerback was loyal to the rogue trader to the last, despite all the rumors to the contrary. Finding little affection among his subjects or family, he stayed true to himself, remaining a forthright, severe and pious person. Macarius strived to ensure that every soul in his charge felt justifiable dread before both him and the God Emperor. Members of House Viserion served the dynasty faithfully and loyally, amassing more and more power. A century later, they had finally gained the respect enjoyed by other noble houses. Yet power and luxury can dull any blade. The now pampered and idle aristocrats were scarcely recognizable as the descendants of the formidable Seneschal Viserion. Clementia Viserion, daughter of Abelard and Chancellor of Dargonis, executed her duties irreproachably and even found time to school the younger generations of her family. She was an equally skilled mentor, chancellor, and political operative. After a century of immaculate service, she surprised everyone by leaving her position and becoming the first mate on a trade ship. She would later admit, like a true Viserion, that she had always had a passion for ships and voidfaring. Branches of House Gaprak and Viserion became intertwined for a time after the marriage of Astarte and Vicent. To the great sadness of the couple and the great amusement of the spiteful Dargonus nobility, their marriage produced no children. Just like her ancestors, Astarte Viserion Gaprat dedicated her life to service. Crushed by the events that shook the stability of his house and his inability to provide an heir, Vicent lived in his wife's shadow. When his time came, he passed away without notice. The Harlequin known as Nocturne of Oblivion visited the Expanse once again. Sneaking onto Dargonus, he came to the Rogue Trader's palace and left him a special gift. A case of Eldari crafting, unmistakably ancient and precious, adorned with the rune of an eye inside a triangle. Only the Lord Captain knew what it contained. The Harlequin candidly warned him that he was drawing the Von Valancius dynasty into a deadly dance, a shaking doom that all will freeze within the threads of Terra's loom. Then he promptly departed, and not without reason. A few hours later, assassins from the Dark City appeared following his trail and were mercilessly killed. Their armor bore the sign of the Cabal of the Black Heart. After months of searching, Dargonus wardens found the remains of Achilles Scalander on the lowest levels of the hive. Drukhari artifacts and records discovered beside him indicated that the agent of the Inquisition had been compromised and was working for the Xenos. Marajai confirmed the guilt of the deceased Inquisition agent and described in detail the torture inflicted upon the poor soul to gain his obedience and loyalty. He also confirmed that Eliot had found and killed his monkey toy, yet few chose to believe the words of the cursed Xenos, and thus the secret of the death of Achilles Scalander was never publicly known. When the enraged cult of the Fatal Thirst punished everyone who had helped the Rogue Trader, the traitor known as the Commissar survived against all odds. Making despicable deals and buying his own life with the lives of others, he found new benefactors. Many more subjects of the God Emperor who had the misfortune of finding themselves in the Dark City became victims of his vile manipulations. The savage deeds that Gorde Skatov witnessed on footfall traumatized him forever. His architectural genius was shattered. Only the rare collections of true connoisseurs held his work, written in a shaky hand. Footfall, the ultimate void station and mortuary. Adelia Bellardo, the granddaughter of the pirate Jerry Can Denz Bellardo, grew up to be a quick-witted and energetic captain. Since her guardian, who went simply by the name Chaplain, knew only face slaughter and voidfaring, he advised her to invest her inheritance in a void ship. Her trade clipper, the Snake, travelled to all the settled worlds of the Expanse, and to many uncharted ones as well. In all the time that Adelia Bellardo was captain, her ship never once fired on a civilian vessel. Abelard Viserion remained the Lord Captain's seneschal and right hand until his dying breath. House Viserion, cleared of accusations of mutiny, dedicated itself to Dargonus' fleet. When years later Abelard left this world, the worthiest successor of his family received the honour of inheriting the high office of seneschal. Having completed his last journey with the Lord Captain, Abelard Viserion, with the gracious permission of the Rogue Trader, left his post as seneschal and took over the helm of his large family. House Viserion rose above its rivals and was never again the target of persecution, even after their esteemed patriarch died decades later in his bed, surrounded by his grieving loved ones. Abelard's shining memory was blighted only by rumours of a creeping madness in the twilight of his life. Many said they had seen their esteemed seneschal talking to someone unseen in a voice filled with unusual tenderness and sorrow. Sister Argenta made no secret of the great respect and gratitude she felt toward the Lord Captain, yet duty compelled her to leave Von Valancius' retinue. With the blessing of the ecclesiarchy, she founded a minor order of the Adepta Sororitas, the Order of the One Star. United around the keeper of the sacred relics, its sisters protected the faithful from the dangers still lurking in the Expanse. The wider order and its courageous founder very quickly became heroes of legend, instilling hope and inspiration in the hearts of Terra's faithful children. Yet the conflict between the Imperium and the head of the von Valancius dynasty could not but affect the young order. Some sisters demanded that Argenta denounce her former commander. Unable to choose between the order she had created and the person without whom she could not have completed her journey, she stepped down from her position and went into exile. Despite everything, love for her among the people of the Expanse only grew. Argenta would be the heroine of songs and tales for centuries to come, a radiant angel who would appear in the darkest hour to protect innocence from the forces of darkness. Enjoying the privileges of the Mercadum Tabula Official, Jay Hedara found her way into the heart of the Expanse's underworld. She became known as the Baroness of Shadows, having amassed so much wealth and influence she came to control the economic fate of the sector. Even the most powerful figures in the Expanse were forced to reckon with and despise her. For a long time, Jay was able to thwart the attempts on her life, until one day she disappeared, but many continue to believe that she still rules the Expanse from shadows even deeper than before. Inquisitor Heinrich van Kalox continued to serve the Imperium and vanished under mysterious circumstances several years later. After receiving a signal encrypted with Inquisition codes, he travelled to an unknown distant world from which he never returned. In her journeys with the rogue trader, Cassia Orselio experienced all the hardships and delights of the galaxy. The invaluable experience and new knowledge helped her to finally conquer her fears and accept herself and her powers. The Lady Navigator became Novator of her house, tasked with addressing the consequences of Tisiphone's rule and the chaos that followed her disappearance. For the duration of her reign, she patiently worked on uniting the feuding branches of the house, forging alliances and expanding the influence of House Orselio. The Starway Atlas, which contained the memories of Tisiphone and the Satala clan, lost its power. House Orselio's navigators once again had to rely on skill alone in the depths of the Immaterium. Many lost their lives, but those who survived the crisis became hardened veterans and pillars of the house. Most of those fortunate souls were young and brave. Too few among them were old and wise. Idira Talas lived several more years after the Rogue Trader's grand campaign on Epitaph. Despite her short life, she left behind many legends and tales of her adventures in the Lord Captain's service and of the terrible warp phenomena that she manifested. Shortly before her death, Idira vanished from her post. Jay disappeared with her. When Jay returned many cycles later, she declared that Idira's last days had been full of joy and adventure, and that her greatest pleasure had been watching the Void Whales play. In announcing the discontinuing of the cycle, the Armagnac Collective instilled terror in the hearts of those who revered the theorems of purity, but it gave hope to others. After gathering its disciples and recruiting servo soldiers from vassal planets, it ventured to the worlds of the Screaming Vortex and to the infernal forges of the Dark Mechanicus. The march of re-indoctrination was meant to seize the stolen secrets of the Omnissiah from the hands of the heretics, temper the cult in the fire of battle, and transform it into a tool for both eradication and comprehension. The fleet disappeared in the darkness, and only rare echoes of its astropathic messages were ever intercepted. The unit Abel Hanuman continued his service to the Armagnac Collective. In unity with 5 companion minds, he rediscovered the joy of direct cognitive communication unmarred by inborn otherness. While outwardly silent, he joyfully described the images, concepts, and ideas that the Omnissiah revealed to him. Fulfilling his function, he overflowed with the exaltation of efficiency. For many long years, Elliot travelled at the Rogue Trader's side, helping him decipher the secrets of lost Xenos races and lending him the wisdom of her kind. Half a century later, she sensed that it was time to say goodbye. The path of the outcast had come to an end. After bidding farewell to her Elentar, Elliot made her way to her surviving kin. Elliot followed a new path, the path of the warrior. She only hoped she would never be forced to raise her weapon against the mortals who had become her true brothers and sisters in arms. Rumor has it that Iliad and Pascal met again among the alien stars. A band of Eldari warriors were trying to protect an ancient planetary edifice of their people from the covetous servants of the Omnissiah. Upon learning that Iliad was leading the Xenos, Pascal personally descended to the planet and struck down his former comrade in arms. Her death did not stir any feelings in his metallic heart. Marajai Azarai, also known as the Tempest Doom, spent several years with the road trader, filling the entire crew with terror. However, with time, his restless and ambitious nature got the better of him. Having grown weary of the company of Monkey, the Drukhari left the ship. Soon after, the Coronis Expanse saw the rise of a new mercenary group, a motley army of humans and Xenos led by a bloodthirsty and ruthless Drukhari leader. Years later, Marajai's name resounded through the Expanse once more. His gang had intercepted a Statia Viserian ship. Her head was delivered to Abelard with a note informing him that it was a gift from an old acquaintance in remembrance of a glorious past. Abelard's grief sent him on a 6-year-long hunt for the despicable Xenos, which sadly was unsuccessful. After joining the Stormbiters, Ulfar Thunderlung soon became the pack leader, taking the place of Thorbold, who met an honourable end. The new leader sent a message to Fenris stating his intention to remain in the Expanse. There were too many enemies yet lurking in these hunting grounds that deserved the Allfather's wrath. Legends paved the formidable pack's path in gold. Years later, Ulfar found a battle in which he could meet his honourable death, but the warp was suddenly torn asunder, and ships from Fenris, bearing the mark of the wolf head, came to his aid. Saved from the battlefield by his loyal companion Halbrand, Ulfar accepted the honours of the dreadnought and was entombed in sacred armour. During the blessed ritual, he cursed and demanded to be left to his death, but his brothers merely answered with mirthful laughter. When he recovered his senses, Ulfar led his forces to the heathen stars. The Allfather had given him a new mission in a near-death vision. No one in the Expanse has heard word of the Space Wolves since their departure, yet many believe that one day they will return victorious. It is rumoured that the true cause of Thorbold Ironhide's demise was treachery. Faced with a superior enemy, the Space Wolves called on their allies for help, but a nearby squadron of the Cognizant fleet withdrew, defiantly broadcasting that the blood debt to Archmagos Amina is not forgotten. Such was the echo of the deeds of the road trader of House von Valancius, deeds that transformed the Coronis Expanse and prepared it for events even darker and more violent. But those are the events of a different story. This one has come to an end.
And that's how everything played out after we beat the Catan Shard. And even though we finished the game as Iconoclasts, it seems like most companions and the Void Ship leaders ended up with neutral sort of endings. No one truly got a sort of ride off into the sunset and lived happily ever after ending, but I suppose that's how it goes in the 4K universe. And some of them, like Abelard's ending, where Astatia got hunted down by Marajai, is a bit odd. Or of course, Iliad supposedly being killed by Pascal is a bit unexpected for me. I thought they would have been on better terms, but I suppose, you know, in the case of Astatia, Marajai was never going to be great friends with non-Drukhari, and I guess Pascal as well was never going to really gel with Xenos. So even though that was set up as a rumor, but maybe I didn't do enough to foster some kind of camaraderie between Xenos and Imperium characters. But in any case, thanks a lot for joining me on this journey. It was a lot of fun, and it was great being able to share it with you guys. And
As for what comes next, I'll let you guys know. But thanks a lot for joining me again, and I'll see you in the next game that I decide to put up here.